Happy weekend, manna gatherers. We will be brief this morning, gathering our good stuff from God so we can get out and enjoy God's first incarnation. That would be God's creation. Well, at least that's what my family is planning to do this morning on Saturday. It is my favorite weekend activity, but it is also a necessity of our little home with 3 boys, 5 and under. We play hard outside right on through lunch, and then we really all nap hard in the afternoon. Another favorite weekend activity. So, with all that being said, let's get to it. We are on our last day together of the longest psalm in the Bible, which is Psalm 119. I hope you filled in that silence with Psalm 119. Psalm 119 verses 143 through 144. Reading today from the NIV, the New International Version of the Bible. Trouble and distress have come upon me, but your commands give me delight. Your statutes are always righteous. Give me understanding that I may live. I used to ask my mom and dad as a child, how will I know when God is speaking to me? They would both answer, and I paraphrase from my childhood memories, you will just know. My mom would add, you will have a sense of peace. And my dad would add something like, if you ever hear a voice tell you to do harm, then you can probably assume that that is not God speaking to you, because God does no harm. Said very much like a Wesleyan. I thought about this because in Psalm 119 it says, your statutes, O God, are always good. In other translations we have read through this week, it has said, your decrees are righteous forever. The way you tell me to live is always right. And finally, your laws are always right. God's commandments, laws, decrees, statutes, ways are always good, right? It has been this way since the beginning of time when God called all things good. God is good. And all that God makes is good. And all God calls us to be and do in this world is to add to all of that God's goodness in our world. To even discover that God's goodness can be found in the middle of very troubling and distressing times. It is true that even as we commit ourselves to God, trouble and distress will come upon us, as the psalmist in Psalm 119 says. We aren't immune from such seasons of life, unfortunately so, in this world. Life eternal, yes, but not now. But as we seek God's understanding of it all, we are drawn to a good place in God, even as the storms of life beat against us. Picture with me Jesus completely at peace in that boat in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, where that storm raged and it didn't faze Jesus at all. But as for the other disciples on board, well, they were completely tossed to and fro physically and spiritually, not understanding how Jesus could so calmly and peacefully sleep on through the storm. Well, I would say Jesus knew that God is good. He knew those words of Jeremiah 29, verse 11. God means for good and not harm, to give all people a future with hope. God leads us to a place of good, a place of peace, a place where you can have hope in all seasons and storms of life. God leads us to do good through God's good commandments. If you feel yourself seeking God and being led toward more harm and less good, well, as my dad would say, maybe that isn't God. God leads us to do good, to know good, to be good, and to share good. Be the good this world needs. Have a good weekend. I will see you on Monday.